got him.
We have a location, coordinates coming your way.
She's unknown.
I don't think you understand what they'll do to her when they get her out of this country.
Find a Baron. The fallout from this is limitless.
The attack on Joe's house was never about killing her family. It was a test, a probe, a way to check one simple thing. Is this really the CIA officer we think she is? And once that box gets checked, everything Joe has built to protect her family becomes the very thing that puts a target on their backs.
Talk us through the worst-case scenario here.
How bad can this get?
This week, Lioness answers the question that's been sitting under the whole season like a live wire.
I got him.
We have a location, coordinates coming your way.
She's on a jet. Destination unknown.
Why did the Russians come to Joe's doorstep in the first place? And the answer is worse than anyone expected, because it means the danger was never random. It was a calculation.
I don't think you understand what they'll do to her when they get her out of this country.
This is Lioness Season 3, Episode 4, The Plan That Caught Joe Instead. Full recap and ending explained. Full spoilers ahead. Let's get into it. We open far from Joe's kitchen table, far from the calm of the American suburbs.
Find a Baron. The fallout from this is limitless.
In a cold and unforgiving room in Kyiv. Kyle and his team have a Ukrainian asset in front of them. And this time there is no gentle negotiation. This is pressure, sustained and deliberate, the kind of pressure that strips away every layer of hesitation until only the truth is left standing. The team has one target question they refuse to let go of. What happened at Joe's house? Why did armed men show up at the home of a woman whose identity is supposed to be one of the most protected secrets in American intelligence? For weeks, the show has let this question sit in the background, a splinter under the skin of every episode, and now Kyle finally forces it into the light. The asset breaks, but not in the way anyone expects. She does not confirm an assassination attempt. She does not confirm a targeted kill order. What she confirms is something colder, something more clinical. The attack was never meant to kill Joe, it was a probe, a test built to answer a single question for Moscow. Is this woman really who we think she is? Is Joe Riley, wife and mother in this quiet American house, actually the CIA officer running operations against Russian interests? The attackers were not there to finish a job. They were there to provoke a reaction, to watch how the house responded, to see if the response looked like an ordinary homeowner defending her family or like a trained intelligence officer protecting an asset network. Every second of that chaotic night was being read like a signal, and Joe's instincts, the fast movements, the controlled aggression, the way she positioned her family, all of it confirmed exactly what the Russians wanted to know. This reframes everything the season has built so far. It is not that Joe survived an attack. It is that Joe passed a test she never knew she was taking, and in passing it, she confirmed her own exposure. The house was never safe to begin with, not because of bad luck, not because of a leak inside the agency, but because someone on the other side had already started asking the right questions. And Joe's own reaction gave them the answer. Kyle absorbs this information the way a professional absorbs a gut punch, without flinching outwardly, but the weight of it changes the temperature of the entire scene. Because if the attack was a probe and not an assassination attempt, then the real operation, the one Moscow is actually planning, has not happened yet. It is still coming. And now they know exactly who they are aiming at. The Kyiv sequence is shot with a stillness that feels almost unbearable compared to the loud, physical chaos of earlier episodes. There is no gunfire here. There is no chase. Just two people in a room, one extracting information with surgical patience, and one finally admitting a truth that changes the shape of the entire season. This is Lioness doing what it does best, using a quiet interrogation to detonate a much bigger bomb than any action sequence could. Because now the audience understands something Joe herself does not fully understand yet. The house was never the danger. The house was the confirmation. And confirmation in this world is always followed by consequence. Back home, the fallout from that confirmation is already reshaping Joe's family, even though none of them know the real reason why. Kate, sharp and furious in the way only a teenager watching her mother live a double life can be, pushes Joe again to walk away from the job. Her argument is simple, and it is not wrong. If the job is what puts a target on this family, then removing the job removes the target. It is the kind of logic that makes sense on paper and falls apart the moment you understand how this world actually works. Jo's answer is not a comfort. It is a warning dressed up as reassurance. She tells Kate, in the clearest terms the show has given us all season, that quitting does not make the danger disappear. The threat was never really about her job title. It was about what she knows, who she has become, and the enemies that decision has already made. Walking away from the CIA does not erase the fact that Jo Riley is now a known quantity to people who do very bad things to known quantities. If anything, quitting removes her ability to see the danger coming. It does not remove the danger itself. This is the brutal math of Jo's life now, and it is a math her daughter is only beginning to understand. What makes this moment land so hard is what Jo does right after the conversation ends. Quietly, without announcement, without drama, she slips a gun into her husband Neil's bag. No conversation about it. No explanation. Just an act of preparation dressed as an act of love. Because in Jo's world, love now looks like giving your husband a weapon and hoping he never has to use it. She tells him to be ready. 2 words that used to mean something ordinary in most households, and now mean something entirely different in this one. This small, silent scene says more about the cost of Jo's double life than any speech could. Her family is not just living with danger. They are being slowly trained to survive inside it, one quiet instruction at a time. This is the emotional core the show keeps returning to, and it works because it never overplays the moment. There is no big confrontation, no tearful breakdown. Just a mother making a decision she knows will change her family forever, and a husband accepting a gun the way other husbands accept a grocery list. The domestic scenes in Lioness have always worked because they refuse to feel like domestic scenes. Every conversation carries a second meaning. Every quiet moment is loaded, sometimes literally. And this episode leans into that tension harder than almost any other, because the audience now knows what Jo's family does not. The danger already confirmed itself. It is just waiting for its next move. The next sequence takes that tension and puts it directly on the road, in broad daylight, on the most ordinary errand imaginable. School drop-off. Randy and 2 Cups are behind the wheel, escorting the girls the way they have done 100 times before. Except this time, something feels wrong before anyone can say exactly what. A traffic jam that builds a little too quickly. Vehicles positioned a little too deliberately. The kind of pattern that would look completely normal to anyone who has not spent their career learning to notice patterns, and looks like a 5-alarm warning to anyone who has. 2 Cups does not wait for confirmation. In this world, waiting for confirmation is how people die. He makes the call in real time, forcing the vehicle into an aggressive maneuver, clipping another car just enough to break the formation forming around them, and getting the girls out of the potential kill zone before anyone can fully understand what almost happened. It is chaotic, it is fast, and it is deliberately disorienting because the show wants the audience to feel exactly what Randy and 2 Cups feel in that moment. Not certainty. Just the cold instinct that something was about to go very wrong, and the split-second decision to not find out for sure. What makes this scene so effective is the ambiguity sitting underneath it. Was this really an ambush in progress, or was it nothing? A string of coincidences that panicked instincts. The show never fully answers that question, and it does not need to, because the not knowing is the entire point. This is what Jo's family's life has become. Every traffic jam is a possible kill box. Every unfamiliar car in a school run is a possible threat. The girls do not know how close they may have come to disaster, and in some ways, that is the cruelest detail of all. Their normal life keeps happening around them, while an invisible war is being fought over their safety, one they will never even know took place. This sequence also quietly reinforces the information from Kyiv. If the Russians were testing Jo's identity through that house attack, then the patterns seen on the road might be a continuation of that same surveillance. Another quiet probe, another set of eyes checking how the security detail reacts under pressure. Nothing about this family's life is accidental anymore. Every reaction is data. Every close call is a data point for someone watching from a distance, deciding what to do next. And that is the horror the episode builds without ever raising its voice. Not gunfire, not explosions, just the slow, suffocating realization that safety, for this family, was never really real to begin with. By the final act, Jo stops being the person other people protect and becomes the person doing the extracting herself. She walks into the interrogation, and the shift in energy is immediate. This is not Kyle's cold, procedural pressure from Kyiv. This is personal. Jo is not asking questions as an operator running a case. She is asking questions as a mother who just found out her house was a test target, as a wife who just put a gun in her husband's bag, as a woman who is done waiting for information to come to her. The asset in front of her senses the difference immediately, and instead of resisting, she offers something Jo was not expecting, advice instead of information. The Russian network responsible for the house probe and the road surveillance will not expose itself through patience. It will only expose itself through provocation. The asset tells Jo, in essence, that if she wants to smoke out the people watching her family, she cannot keep playing defense. She has to make a move big enough, loud enough, aggressive enough that the network has no choice but to react, and in reacting, reveal itself. This is the moment the episode has been building toward from its very first scene. Jo now has two pieces of information stacked on top of each other. First, that the attack on her home was never random. It was a confirmation test that succeeded. Second, that the only way forward is to force the enemy's hand rather than wait for their next move. Put those two things together, and you get exactly the kind of high-stakes gamble the show's title promises. A trap Jo is about to set, one big enough to catch a Russian network operating inside American soil, but also one that puts her and everyone she loves directly in the blast radius if it goes wrong. The tension here is not about whether Jo is capable of building this trap. The show has spent 3 seasons proving she is more than capable. The tension is about cost. Every trap in this world requires bait, and every piece of bait in Jo's life has a face, a name, a bedtime, a school run. As the episode closes, Jo is no longer the hunted. She is stepping into the role of the hunter, deliberately, with full knowledge of what she is risking to do it. And the last image the show leaves us with is not comfort. It is a warning wrapped in resolve, a woman deciding that the only way to protect her family now is to become more dangerous than the people threatening it. So let's put the pieces together. Because this episode is quieter than most of the season, but it might be the most important one so far. The attack on Jo's house was never an assassination attempt. It was a probe, a test to confirm Jo's identity as a CIA officer, and Jo passed that test simply by being who she is. That single revelation flips the entire season on its head. This was never about Jo surviving random violence. It was about Jo being identified, studied, and confirmed as a target by people patient enough to wait and watch before making their real move. Everything else in this episode is a direct consequence of that confirmation. Kate's demand that her mother quit makes emotional sense, but it misunderstands the actual threat, because quitting cannot undo something that has already been confirmed. The gun in Neil's bag is not paranoia, it is preparation for a danger that is already real and already watching. The near miss on the school run is very possibly a continuation of the same surveillance pattern that started with the house attack, another quiet check to see how the family reacts under pressure. Every domestic scene in this episode is really a scene about surveillance, whether the characters know it or not. And then there is the interrogation Jo leads herself, the moment that gives this episode its title. The advice she receives, that the only way to expose a patient enemy is through provocation, sets up exactly the kind of trap the promotional title warns us about. Jo's own trap just got her kidnapped. Read that alongside everything we now know, and a theory starts to form. If Jo is about to build a large, loud, aggressive move designed to force a Russian network into the open, then the very people she is trying to expose will see it coming from a mile away, because they have already proven, through the house probe and the road surveillance, that they are watching closer than anyone realized. A trap built to catch them could just as easily become a trap that catches Jo instead. My verdict, and this is theory, not confirmation, is that this episode is the quiet before the storm the title has already promised us. The bear is infected, the season told us weeks ago, and infection does not announce itself loudly. It spreads, it waits, it reacts only when provoked. Jo is about to provoke it, and if the pattern of this season holds, the very plan she builds to protect her family is the plan that puts them in the most danger yet. 5 senators, 1 honeypot, and a trap that was supposed to catch a network are about to collide with a woman who just discovered she has been under a microscope from the very beginning. Did Jo just set the trap that gets her taken? Drop your theory below, because next week's episode is going to answer exactly that. Subscribe so you do not miss it. Like the video, so the algorithm hands it to the next person, asking why a quiet interrogation scene hit harder than any gunfight this season. And I will see you at Langley. Now let's pull the thread that connects this episode back to everything the season set up before it, because nothing in Lioness sits by itself. Every scene is a piece of a larger machine, and this episode only makes sense once you place it next to the senators and the honeypot the show has already put on the board. Remember what came before. Alexandra's asset list did not stop at low-level names handed off to the FBI. It went all the way up to 5 sitting United States senators, each compromised in a different way. Money, investment, blackmail, a camera, and a leash. That list was never just a subplot. It was a loaded weapon sitting quietly in the background, waiting for the right moment to go off. And this episode, on the surface, a quiet family drama about school runs and dinner table arguments, is actually the moment that weapon starts moving again. Here is why that matters. If the Russians tested Joe's identity through the house attack, and if that test succeeded, then Moscow now knows exactly who is running point against their network inside the United States. A network that already has 5 senators on a leash does not panic when it identifies its opponent. It adapts. It goes quieter, more careful, more patient, because the entire point of an asset like the honeypot senator is long-term leverage, not short-term chaos. That is the real danger sitting underneath this episode's calm surface. The Russians are not scrambling. They are recalibrating around a confirmed threat. And Joe, still working with partial information, does not yet realize the size of the machine she is about to provoke. This is where the advice Joe receives in her own interrogation becomes so much more dangerous than it first appears. The asset tells her that provocation is the only way to expose a patient enemy. That is true. But provocation against an enemy who already has 5 senators compromised is not a small risk. It is an invitation for a network with serious institutional reach to respond in kind. And institutional reach means options Joe's family does not have. A traffic accident on a highway can be engineered by street-level operatives. A career-ending scandal, a manufactured crime, a compromised judge, an investigation that quietly derails Joe's entire operation from the inside. Those are the tools available to a network with senators in its pocket. The trap Joe is about to build to catch this enemy could just as easily hand that enemy every tool it needs to catch her first. And this is exactly what the video title has been warning us about since before this episode even aired. The plan that caught Joe instead. Joe's own trap just got her kidnapped. Those are not just dramatic phrases built for a thumbnail. They are, if the pattern of this season holds, an accurate description of what happens when a skilled operator forgets that the people she is hunting have been building their own web for years, longer than she has been aware of it. Joe is thinking in terms of one operation, one trap, one provocation designed to smoke out a single network. The senator's plotline suggests something much bigger, an infrastructure of compromised power